This morning, the Vatican released shocking news. Pope Francis has passed away at the age of 88. And honestly, it caught a lot of people off guard. Sure, he'd been facing health challenges recently and even spent over a month in the hospital, but things seemed to be turning around. He was discharged, appearing more stable, and just yesterday, yesterday, he was out in public, blessing crowds on Easter Sunday and meeting with figures like J.D. Vance. And then, less than a day later, he's gone. On Easter Monday, no less. The timing alone feels surreal. As the news broke, bells rang across Vatican City, one for each year of his life. Around the world, people began to mourn. But the grief wasn't limited to just the Catholic community. Pope Francis was seen by many as a global figure, a voice for unity, justice, and compassion. He made history in so many ways. The first pope from Latin America, the first non-European leader of the Catholic Church in centuries. And he embraced that outsider role fully. From refusing to live in the lavish papal palace to advocating for radical reforms, Francis brought a very different energy to the papacy. He called for an end to nuclear weapons and the death penalty. He spoke out in favor of same-sex unions and against anti-LGBTQ+ laws. He even placed women in high-ranking roles within the church, something nearly unheard of in Vatican tradition. And in a world wrestling with AI, he became the first pope to speak at a G7 summit, urging world leaders to regulate the technology before it gets out of hand. Now, for the first time in over a decade, the Catholic Church is without a living pope. And that means one of the world's oldest traditions is already being set into motion. Let's talk about what happens next. It's like something out of a movie. To start, Pope Francis led the largest religious group on the planet, 1.4 billion people. He was the 267th pope in a direct line of succession stretching back nearly 2,000 years to St. Peter. Think about that. Almost 2 millennia of continuity. It's hard to even wrap your head around. And as you might expect, there's a deeply intricate protocol for what follows a pope's death. In fact, there's a massive book, 400 pages long, dedicated solely to the rituals surrounding a pope's funeral. It even includes a specific tradition for verifying the death. The pope's baptismal name is called 3 times. No response? Then it's official. Of course, modern medicine now plays a part, but the tradition still exists. Now, here's the twist. Pope Francis simplified that entire 400-page manual just last year. He didn't want a dramatic or drawn-out ceremony. In his eyes, the Pope shouldn't be viewed as a worldly ruler, but as a humble servant of Christ. So, no 3 coffins like past popes. Just a wooden casket with a zinc lining. And rather than being buried beneath the Vatican like many before him, he chose a final resting place across town at the Basilica of St. Mary Major. One powerful symbol that will be retired is the Fisherman's ring, which will be ceremonially destroyed. Historically, this was to prevent document forgeries, but it now also marks the end of a pope's authority. Within 9 days of official mourning underway, Pope Francis's body will lie in state at St. Peter's Basilica. The public will be allowed to view him, his coffin open, just as they did during Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. And a grand mass will be held, drawing world leaders, dignitaries, and millions of viewers from around the world. Roughly 2 to 3 weeks after his death, the Church will begin the next chapter, choosing a new pope. This is where it gets dramatic. Cardinals from all over the globe, around 120 of them, will gather in Rome and be locked away in what's called a conclave. The word itself comes from the Latin for with a key, which literally refers to the cardinals being shut inside until they make a decision. This tradition dates back to the 1200s, when a papal election dragged on for 3 years, and the locals got so frustrated they locked the cardinals in and removed the roof. Even today, the spirit of that tradition remains. During the conclave, the cardinals enter the Sistine Chapel, completely cut off from the outside world. No phones, no news, no internet. Just prayer and conversation. They vote using paper ballots, writing down the name of the candidate they support. Then, one by one, they place their votes in a chalice at the altar. The results are counted, and unless someone gets a 2/3 majority, the vote fails, and the ballots are burned. Black smoke rises from the chapel's chimney, signaling that no decision has been reached. But once a candidate finally receives enough votes, the ballots are burned again, but this time, White smoke fills the sky. That smoke is a global signal a new pope has been chosen. Within an hour, the newly elected leader steps out onto the balcony above St. Peter's Square, and the world meets the next head of the Catholic Church. It's easy to forget just how big a deal this is. Over 1.4 billion Catholics and nearly 2.4 billion Christians worldwide. The Pope's influence stretches far beyond religion. It touches politics, culture, and global affairs. So, yeah, the next few weeks are going to be historic. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button.